Sometimes you don't need to say a word before people decide who you are. A look, a uniform, a quiet posture, and the judgment settles in. That's the world Rintaro lives in at the start of Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. He's misunderstood, labeled as a delinquent, avoided, and written off. Not because of anything he has done, but because no one takes the time to look deeper. Then comes Waguri, a girl from a world that should reject him. But she doesn't. She notices what others overlook. And that quiet recognition begins to change everything. This isn't just a love story. It's a story about perception, identity, and the slow, difficult work of letting yourself be seen. I'll be giving 4 lessons that the manga offers about breaking free from labels, confronting fear, and finding connection in a world quick to judge. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this, feel free to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel and keeps me motivated to create more for you guys. Thank you! Set in a town where 2 high schools sit side by side, the story follows the unspoken tension between Kikyo's Girls' Academy, a prestigious school known for its noble and refined young ladies, and Chidori High, a public school but unfairly dismissed as a place for rough, low-class boys. Despite being neighbors, the students from each other's school live in completely separate worlds, and they seem determined to keep it that way. The Kikyo girls openly look down on Chidori, and the boys, tired of the disdain, mostly ignore them back. They have ugly thoughts about each other. But in the middle of this quiet standoff is Rintaro, a tall, quiet student from Chidori. With his intimidating looks and reserved nature, people constantly assume the worst about him. Though he is far from a delinquent, his appearance alone invites judgment and rejection. Over time, he's grown used to being misunderstood and even blames himself when people turn away. But one day, he meets Waguri, and the question is, what happens when 2 people from opposite sides of the social divide start to truly see each other? But without spoiling anything, the entire story comes down to gently unfolding into something deeper, a tender exploration of self-worth, quiet courage, and the healing power of being understood. Never judge a book by its cover. The hidden cost of first impressions. From the very beginning, Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity shows how dangerous and limiting snap judgments can be. Rintaro is instantly labeled as a delinquent based solely on his appearance. It doesn't matter that he's kind, introspective, and even works at his family patisserie. People see what they want to see, not what is. Psychologically speaking, this reflects what's known as the halo effect, where one characteristic, like a rough appearance, shapes how we view someone's entire personality. It's a mental shortcut our brain takes, but it often leads us far from the truth. The manga uses this bias as its emotional foundation, showing how those assumptions can isolate people, not just socially, but emotionally as well. Waguri, in contrast, doesn't see the image others have painted on Rintaro. Instead, she listens. She observes and she experiences him, the quiet boy who hesitates, who smiles gently when remembered, who overthinks every interaction because he's been rejected so many times before. Through her eyes, we're reminded that everyone is carrying something invisible. But how do we apply this to our own life? Well, next time you meet someone, just pause. Ask yourself, am I seeing this person clearly or just through the lens of past assumptions? Consider approaching others with openness and empathy, not judgment. We all long to be seen for who we really are, not who others assume we must be. The first step to creating that space for others and for ourselves as well is learning to look again and just observe. Kindness that challenges stereotypes. Why gentle acts can break barriers. Waguri's kindness is not flashy. It's not grand, but it's powerful. When she defends Rintaro from harassment and later thanks him for protecting her, it leaves Rintaro stunned. Not because of the words themselves, but because he genuinely never expected to be thanked. He had internalized so much the idea that he was someone others should avoid. But Waguri, in her soft and steady way, offers him something deeply healing. acceptance. This taps into what psychologist Kristen Neff calls self-compassion through connection. When someone treats us with compassion, it helps us start teaching ourselves that way too. Rintaro slowly starts to question the narrative he's held for so long. What if I'm not the scary, unlovable person others have made me out to be? And so, it's important to never underestimate the impact of small, kind gestures. Compliment someone. Ask a quiet friend how they are really doing, or challenge a stereotype gently when you see it. Kindness is not a weakness. It's revolutionary in a world now so conditioned to judge before even understanding. Just like Waguri challenges the Kikyo-Chidori divide, by simply standing at Rintaro's school gate, you can challenge invisible walls in your life. With honesty, warmth, and a willingness to see people fully. The echo chamber of overthinking, when your mind becomes the loudest bully. One of the most beautifully painful aspects of Rintaro's character is how accurately the manga depicts his inner world. He overthinks everything. A look, a pause, a comment left unsaid, and often that spiral leads him to believe he has done something wrong, even when he has not. This is a classic example of cognitive distortion, particularly personalization, where someone blames themselves for events outside of their control. Over time, these mental loops reinforce feelings of worthlessness and fear of rejection. Rintaro's growth comes not from suddenly becoming confident, but from recognizing his patterns and slowly challenging them. His moment of reflection, sparked by his mom's wise words, mark as a turning point. He starts to ask not just how others see him, but how he has been seeing others. And the same as well goes for Waguri. If you catch yourself spiraling in overthinking, try the technique called thought reframing. What you do is that you write down what you're thinking. A thought like, maybe she probably hates me right now. And then ask yourself, what evidence supports this? What might I be missing? Or most importantly, who said that? This helps you to analyze the situation objectively. You're collecting facts rather than relying on your emotional response. It's totally fine to feel emotional, but don't let it overtake reality. And this reframing is not about toxic positivity. It is really about finding a more balanced truth. Like Rintaro, we don't need to silence our thoughts. We just need to learn how to observe and sort of talk back to them. Your past is not the whole story. Healing the inner child. As the story unfolds, we begin to understand that both Rintaro and Waguri are carrying quiet but heavy emotional baggage. Fears rooted in not the present, but in childhood. Rintaro's stoic demeanor hides the wounds of being misjudged and rejected for years. Waguri's warmth, meanwhile, comes from her own understanding of what it means to feel unseen. Fragrant flower blooms with dignity, gently but powerfully explores the concept of inner child work, a therapeutic process that involves recognizing, comforting, and healing the younger version of ourselves that still carries pain. When Waguri tells Rintaro that she doesn't care about his school, his background, or what others think of him, it's only him that she cares about. The moment is more than just romantic. It's restorative. For someone who has internalized the belief that his worth is defined by labels and status, her words reach straight into his heart, into the part of him that has longed to be chosen. Not despite who he is, but because of it. It's a balm to a wound that has been open since childhood. The wound of not being enough. This theme is echoing throughout the manga, I have noticed. Real connection begins when we stop trying to fix each other and start holding space for each other's invisible wounds. Their love story becomes a quiet, ongoing act of reparenting, actually. Each kind word, each shared silence, and a reminder that they are safe and to be seen as they truly are. And ways to apply this in our own lives is simply talking to our inner child. When you feel triggered, anxious, or overwhelmed, just pause and ask, what does my younger self need to hear right now? You may think it's a bit silly, but it really works. It could be something like, you're not too much, or you're allowed to feel scared. Imagine speaking gently to a younger version of yourself. This may feel odd at first, but this practice can bring deep emotional relief, alongside with rewriting the labels that you grew up with. Just like Rintaro, many of us carry old beliefs like, I'm a burden, or I don't belong here. Take the time to name them all, and then ask, where did this belief even come from? Is this even true? When done, write a new and kinder narrative. For example, I was not difficult, I was just feeling overwhelmed and didn't have the support that I needed. And lastly, along with that, surrounding yourself with emotionally safe people is very, very important. Rintaro starts healing not by changing himself, but he starts feeling seen and accepted, for example, by Waguri. Seek relationships that reflect the same kind of safety. People who actually listen without judgment. People who don't try to fix you, but simply just understand. They keep you at your value. And just as importantly, practice being that safe person for yourself. Fragrant flower blooms with dignity is a gentle, powerful reminder that people are more than what they appear to be. Rintaro and Waguri's story shows us how easy it is to judge, how hard it is to open up, and how truly transformative it can be when we choose kindness over assumption. It's all about the bravery of showing up, even when you're scared, about unlearning the stories others have written for you. And above all, it's about blooming quietly, courageously, and with dignity. So ask yourself, who have I misjudged? What labels have I internalized about myself? And also, am I ready to look deeper with gentler eyes? Let me know in the comments which part of Rintaro's and Waguri's story resonate with you the most. And if you're learning to bloom in your own way, know that I'm cheering you on. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you all in my next video. Bye bye!